get it. I'm trying to put money in your pocket, that crypto wallet, that bing bada bing ching ching big profit. Even when the market's sideways, I'm looking for ways to get paid. I'm checking my coins around breakfast, then again around bedtime. Bet this, it's not financial advice, but I'm always right. 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 I'm always right.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Bleaves Nightly News Show, where we take major crypto news events of the day and see what's happening so that you know what's going on in the crypto world. Merry Christmas to you and to your family. My name is Bleaves. I'm your host. So please do me a favor, hit that like button and the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified of future content, and we're going to kick off tonight with these, our top stories. All right, guys, coming in at number one, XRP price bulls are clinging to a key support level as analysts are warning of a high time frame breakdown. The XRP price is stabilizing around $1.90 to $1.95 right now after a 6% drop over the weekend, holding on to critical support level that sparked rebounds before, but analysts are warning that breaking it could trigger a 50% plunge to levels that we've not seen in over a year, with some spotting bearish patterns like a rounding top, while others are seeing potential bullish divergence for a future breakout. And that basically means that the XRP bulls right now are holding on to these levels like it's the Titanic. Meanwhile, analysts are screaming iceberg ahead, so it's going to be very interesting because if it breaks right now, it's going to drop faster than my faith in crypto after the last bear market. And you guys know at this point that we've been kind of shattered by that. So let's move on. This is a great one right here. A Brooklyn man was indicted for allegedly stealing $16 million from Coinbase users through a phishing scheme. In fact, I want to tell you guys that I think that this person had actually reached out to me for this, and I completely ignored him, but I do think that I was contacted by this guy for this thing. A 23-year-old man from Brooklyn faces 31 charges for a phishing scam that stole nearly $16 million in crypto from over 100 Coinbase users by posing as support staff, laundering funds through mixers, and gambling, in which he lost $6 million. So of the $16 million, this guy only came out with $10 million of it, with authorities recovering some assets and noting that his plan was to flee the country. And we can thank Zach XBT for helping to crack the case. Listen, this guy this Brooklyn guy stole $16 million by pretending to be Coinbase support. Talk about a phishing scheme. He even lost $6 million gambling it away to try to launder the money, not understanding fundamentally that the blockchain cannot be manipulated and you cannot lie to it. That's like robbing a bank and then blowing it at the casino next door. This guy is an absolute crypto moron. Unbelievable. I can't believe that we're in a society in which people are doing this kind of stuff still and thinking that they're going to get away with it. It's absolutely insane. But moving on. Michael Saylor sent out what's called a green dots message, which hints at fresh Bitcoin buying. That means when Michael Saylor sends out a green dot, that means that he intends to buy. Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy posted a cryptic green dots message with a graph of his firm's Bitcoin buys, signaling a potential new purchase amid strong institutional demand as Bitcoin hovers near $90,000, facing massive resistance, with ETFs like BlackRock holding massive balances despite these outflows. And we're getting fresh outflows from the Bitcoin ETFs, but they have not been the huge numbers that most people who are bearish right now have predicted. What we've seen has been a major hodl moment as Bitcoin has not broken down below the target level of 80,000. Now, for many of you, 75,000 was a key level, with talks of 60 to 50,000 coming into play, but we've seen Bitcoin hold massive support. And while we're seeing massive support, we're seeing some of the major buyers. We're seeing Strategy, We're seeing Metaplanet. We're seeing people step in with massive buys, buying Bitcoin at these levels, thinking that in fact there's going to be a nice and impressive sort of rally. And let's just call Michael Saylor for what he is. He is basically at this point a mad scientist for Bitcoin. And when he puts green dots out, that is basically Morse code for, hey bro, I'm buying more Bitcoin. It's like if Warren Buffett tweeted emojis every time he stocked up on Coke. And it's Coke the drink. Except the fizz here, it's in the price bubble. Moving on. All right, guys, this is very, very interesting right now. XRP ETFs have hit over 1.21 billion in assets since their mid-November launch with no outflows. Seen by managers as a third path beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum due to XRP's utility in transactions, liquidity, and institutional appeal from pensions and insurers, bolstered by the ledger's efficiency. And this is now the fastest ETF to 1 billion to 1.2 billion, and we're probably going to see it continue. There's not been a sell-off day, which is really ironic for XRP or any ETF in the crypto ecosystem at this point, because in all fairness and in all honesty, you expect to see some outflows, but we're just not seeing any sort of outflows coming from these XRP ETFs so far. We've seen outflows from every other ETF, and I'm sure that we will see outflows from XRP, but it looks like a lot of people right now are looking at the Swift partnership, they're looking at the XRP adoption rate, and they are deciding that this is the most bullish crypto project in all of, let's call it crypto dumb at this point, because we're all dumb if we're still here, right? Now these hedge fund guys, they're calling this a $1.2 billion third path. So finally, crypto's got options beyond Bitcoin Boulevard, beyond Ethereum Express. They've got XRP right now as that third lane, and they are all piling in. By the way, enormous outflows happening right now from Bitcoin, from Ethereum, but again, XRP holding strong, which means that all these other lanes, they're just clogged with outflows and traffic, and everybody seems to be moving to XRP. Unbelievable moment in time. Unbelievable moment in time right now. This is where I gave you a prediction a while back that XRP would hit $25. And it really at this point looks like XRP is ready for that massive surge, starting up to go to $25. Now, I do think that we're going to stop at $3. $271, I think, was the number that I gave you the other day. I do believe that we're going to have a move to $420. Everything is lining up. Also, just to be clear here, I did give you guys a prediction and I put the video out today. I did not notify anybody because this is kind of raw. And it was Raoul Pal who came out with another massive prediction. And his predictions, by the way, are based upon liquidity in the markets with an understanding right now of the break in the 4-year cycle. If you have not watched it, I suggest that you go watch that video. I launched it last night. It explains everything that I'm talking about right now in terms of liquidity in the market and how Raoul Pal is telling you that between the first quarter of 2026 to the second quarter of 2026, we are probably going to see a massive continuation. Not only that, we've talked about this before, but it's called the banana zone. And in the banana zone right now, that banana zone is looking like a 3-tiered system. And that first leg hasn't even started yet. So strap yourself in because it's going to get absolutely crazy. XRP probably going to have an incredible surge. Now this one's absolutely crazy right here. Nearly $50 million in USDT was stolen after an address poisoning scam. A trader lost nearly $50 million this weekend in USDT to an address poisoning scam where attackers spoofed a wallet address in transaction history, tricking the victim into sending funds there after a test transfer. The thief swapped and laundered via Tornado Cash, with the victim offering a $1 million bounty amid rising 2025 crypto thefts over $3.4 billion. If you remember, a lot of that money came from the Bybit hack earlier this year, but it's been continuing to happen all of this time. And we do know, by the way, that Bybit was done by the North Koreans at this point, but that's not going to get the money back. So, and look, address poisoning, what he did, by the way, was very simple. He had hacked the wallet, and then he had willfully given this person their previous address where they go to send money. So when that person went to send money, they clicked on their own address that they always sent money to, but it was spoofed and there was an underlying address beneath there that it was actually routed to instead. So be very, very careful. But it also makes you wonder here, It's like getting a fake ID that's almost yours, but it swaps in the middle and says, you can't drive, boo. Unbelievable. It's absolutely crazy. This guy lost $50 million after a $50 USDT test. And by the way, the $50 USDT test went through to his original wallet. This was a sophisticated sort of scam. Talk about failing a vibe check. Oh my goodness, this is just an incredible error and problem in these markets. Guys, stay safe. It is so important that you do not fall victim to some of these crazy scams. Moving on. All right, so this one's going to get real interesting here. Ethereum faces selling pressure as Arthur Hayes rotates $2 million. BitMEX co-founder Arthur Hayes sold $2 million in Ethereum, and he's rotating it into DeFi tokens right now, expecting them to outperform Ethereum based on current fiat inflows. We're over $370 billion right now in stablecoins, adding to Ethereum's selling pressure as it consolidates near $3,000 with ETF outflows now over $600 million for the week, potentially testing lower supports. Arthur Hayes dumping $2 million for DeFi is like trading a Lamborghini for a bunch of experimental hoverboards. Sure, they might fly, but you'll probably end up falling off of one and busting your face on the pavement. I expect this to not end very well for Arthur Hayes. This is not going to be a good result here. I don't see any path where this works out. And our final major story today is Fundstrat's Tom Lee is warning that Bitcoin could hit 60,000, while at the same time he's telling everybody who will listen that he expects a new all-time high for Bitcoin. Now it's getting a little bit weird right here. Fundstrat is privately warning clients of Bitcoin dropping to 60 to 65,000 by early 2026 as a correction amid macro risk environment with similar downsides for ETH and Solana, but sees it as a buying opportunity before recovery. This contrasts with Lee's public bet on a new Bitcoin all-time high by January of 2026. And Fundstrat telling clients that Bitcoin could hit $60,000 while Tom Lee bets on all-time highs, that's like your financial advisor whispering, sell everything, but then tweeting out, we're going to the moon, baby. You know how I tweet. So that's a really weird thing right now. I'm not sure exactly what Tom Lee has in his bag, but first to remember, Bitcoin trading somewhere near 85,000, Tom is accumulating. Ethereum trading near 3,000, Tom continues to accumulate massively. Now, the question would be, why would he be accumulating? Why would he be doing this if he thinks that the price is about to go down? It does not make any sense, and it really makes you ask the question, like, what is going on with Tom Lee? What is going on in his brain right now? Is he really thinking 60 to 65,000? Or is this just one of those moments in time where it's important for him to hedge against his belief because he has traditional investors, and if they miss, they won't really care, and he'll be just fine? Maybe that's it. I don't know. But Tom Lee, who is one of the more bullish people in all of DeFi right now, telling his investors that he thinks that Bitcoin could go to 60 to 65,000. And by the way, that's at the beginning of 2026. Now on Friday, the Bitcoin spot ETF saw outflows of 1.85K. That is a large amount for the day. We're going to stick with this. We're not going to go with dollar amounts, but they lost 1,800 Bitcoin, still up significantly and massively, up 617,000 Bitcoin. So I want you to get perspective on this. 617,000 Bitcoin is what has been accumulated by all of the ETFs so far since the launch in January of 2024. Now, a flow of 1.85K out, or 1.87K the day before. When before that you had 5K in inflows, really doesn't move the needle too much, but when I look at it overall, it does look like there's significant outflows, but again, significant to me, significant maybe to you, but not in the overall scheme of things. it still looks like and appears that Bitcoin is still set to accumulate massively on the ETFs, and it's absolutely insane that we're having that conversation. And now, this. Folks, if you're into risk-based gaming, then TerraCasino.io is the place for you. It doesn't matter what Chicago team you want to wager on, and it should be Chicago teams only, obviously, or any team that you want, but only Chicago teams, but also any team that you want. TerraCasino.io is the place for you. If you want to buy meme coins or utility coins in the Terra Luna Classic ecosystem, the most vibrant economy right now is Terraport.finance. It has a deep pool of liquidity, and you can even buy the Believe meme coin. And finally, folks, if you're trying to track all of your trades, TrackMyTrades.ai is the platform for you. Once you sign up at the link down below, then you can also play your crypto game with power. All right, guys, now let's talk about what I think is getting ready to happen with Bitcoin. What I'm looking at right now, as you see it, Bitcoin not really holding up very well, but we've had a nice little surge over the last 3 or 4 days, bouncing off of 85,000. Now, there's two ranges. There's obviously an up and a down to it, and we're mid-range right now, so anything could happen. Bitcoin could reach 94,500 before we know it in a very aggressive move, or we could have another breakdown to 84,000. Now let's remember, Raoul Pal, very bullish on what's going to happen. Tom Lee, very bullish on what's going to happen, but Tom Lee is telling Fundstrat that he thinks 60 or 65,000 could be the next level. And by the way, when you break this down and come out here and start to look at it from these levels, it makes sense that he would choose 60, 65,000 because that is still the biggest level of support for Bitcoin right now. And although we're seeing new highs, we're seeing a continuation. And when we zoom out, this is what we're looking at overall. We're looking at high, higher high every single time. We're not seeing a fundamental breakdown in Bitcoin, despite the fact that you have 4-year bears now looking at it and telling you that the cycle is over. We're not seeing that. Now, when we zoom in and get a little bit more granular in detail, on a much shorter time frame, then guess what? When that disappears, then a higher flow is happening. The upside right here, 96,460, when we zoom out and start to look at the volume flow from this range. We're still looking at 94,600. It's very good to see that Bitcoin's most volatile volume node, the big place that we should be magnetically attracted to, is still up in this 95, 96,000 range. That's a really good sign. That is not a sign, by the way, moving on, that is shared with Ethereum. Now, I've zoomed out a little bit so that you got an idea here, but if I were to zoom in here, and I'm going to do that right now, I zoom in and guess what? 2518 was the original kind of trading area. If I take some of this stuff out right here and move it into this range, guess what? It still comes into 2,500. 2,500 is where a massive amount of volume is attracted to Ethereum. So when I look at this chart, I see the same thing that I see on Bitcoin. What I see is a move up anywhere between 3,500 and then a move down to 2,800. And if I look at it from a more critical context, then 2,500 looks even more enticing. And listen, the bears, this is a leverage game. We're at the point right now where leverage has taken over in this market. And because it's taken over in this market, the most likely scenario and the most likely play out here will be a move to that downside. Now, you guys know that I maintain myself as a very bullish person when it comes to cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, when I look at these charts, I look at Bitcoin and I see a move to the upside at 96,000. But when I look at Ethereum, that little white line right here tells me that 2,500 is the magnet, and that is lower than the current price. So we're split one way or the other. Is Bitcoin the bullish narrative, or is Ethereum the bearish narrative, and which one is going to play out? Well, the good part is that Bitcoin should be bullish, but the bad part is that DeFi has still not taken off. We haven't seen the banana zone. And again, I'm going to encourage you to go watch my video from Raoul Pal talking about this narrative about what could be happening here and how the liquidity cycle is playing out. Let me show you what I mean by that. So this yellow line represents the M2 money supply, and it continues to pump. Unfortunately, the crypto market did not continue to surge. Now, ultimately, when we start to look at it, and they tell you all the time, when in doubt, zoom out. And when we zoom out, we should still be bullish about the cryptocurrency market because it's done a very phenomenal job of continuing up. And when we get a critical eye on it, then what do we see? We see higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. We're talking long time frame here. Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Now, the thesis is this. Some people have a thesis of the 4-year cycle. That 4-year cycle says that every 4 years, we're going to have a pump leading into this time of year, and then we're going to have a massive capitulation because that 4-year cycle will have broken, and now we're going into the bear market. However, if you were to go back and look at all of this data and change this data to something more akin to the entire cycle of liquidity, then what you will find is that the liquidity cycle was matching that 4-year cycle. The liquidity cycle is no longer matching the 4-year cycle. What's missing in this overall has been liquidity in our market right now. Liquidity pools are very, very thin. And without liquidity like that, then that leaves people stuck holding the bag, if you will. And nobody wants to be the one holding the bag. Now, in asking Grok what's going on, the Federal Reserve is injecting $6.8 billion to a repurchase agreement, a repo operation, where the Fed provides short-term loans to banks against collateral like treasuries. This adds temporary liquidity to the financial system, helping stabilize short-term interest rates. Tomorrow morning, there will be $6.8 billion injected into the U.S. market, meaning this is going to give people the ability to lend and borrow and cash out if they want to. This adds temporary liquidity into the financial system. Now, that is a bullish sign for all risk assets. But going back to it, when you have this pump happening right here, we are at historic highs in the amount of money being printed in the world. So the ultimate goal here is for that to rotate over into cryptocurrency. To date, it has not rotated over, and during this last little dump here, we had an even more massive dump. And again, I attribute this mostly to Wintermute and Jane Street selling off on the market, trying to force that 4-year cycle. When they saw a crack in the pavement, if you will, when they saw a weakness in the market, they took advantage of it. So now that that's out of the way, it's time to move on to Solana. You'll see this one's a little more complicated. We're really sitting right at the level, $143. We're at 125 right now. But again, it looks like a move to the upside, and I'm basing this on a Fibonacci. Fibonacci tells me that we should be having a massive move here. Now, let's clear this, and let's draw it based on our last pivot, and you'll be surprised at the result. If I do this, and I draw it out right now, then Fibonacci tells me that my deepest cut, which is also a pump, it would work in reverse. Fibonacci tells me that that 786 is an attractive area. That attractive area right now matches up to the descending channel that we're in right now. I suspect that we're about to see a rally, a massive rally from Solana. Now, that does not mean that we're not going to break down first, but the chart tells me that the most likely scenario going from down here where we are right now all the way up to this range right here, that purple line right there, that's the 786 Fibonacci line, and it crosses over, and it does it very, very soon. Now, the question is, did we pivot? That's the real question, because here's the other part to it. Let me reverse this, and if we play it up this way and we say, well, from this pivot to this pivot, these are longer time frames, but this pivot over here moved all the way up here to this range, and then it dunked all the way back down to the 786, because that's what it does. That's the way that it works. Now, if I go over here, and this is where we get, this is interesting, right? So we move over here and we see that, and guess where it went? 786. Guys, are you seeing? Do you understand what I'm talking about right now? Are you understanding what I'm saying? What I'm saying is we tend to go to that 786 on Fibonacci from these pivots on Solana, and it's playing out again from the top to the bottom to the 786, which is a $224 Solana right about now. So if you're not already, this would be, in my opinion, a very good time to grab yourself a bag of Solana. It makes a lot of sense. And by the way, if you're trading KCEX or weeks, sign up in my description down below. Don't forget track my trades. Don't forget all the other stuff here, because it helps me out tremendously to continue to provide you with this content. Moving on to Tau, if you look at this chart, you probably are looking at the same thing that I'm looking at, and you're saying, well, what about the Fibonacci here? What does that look like? Well, if we look at the pivots from each and every one of these moves, they're not nearly as aggressive. So what are we looking at? We see this right here. We got that 786. We got that full move right there, okay? But after that broke down, then we had the move from the pivot down here to the pivot up here, and then we broke down to that one level one more time. This was going into early April. Now things seem to have changed dramatically. Let's look at where we are in the lower time frame pivots. We've got this move right here that goes right here. Now you see we went to the 618 instead of the 786. So does that continue to play out? The answer to that is no. Watch what happens here. We go here. Guess what? 786 plays out. Okay. Now, what about this pivot from up here to down here? Well, that broke down. That was October 10. This was winter mute. So it's hard to really put a number on what's going on there. All right. So this is where we've finally broken down on a chart. But now let us consider, in the event that this is where our bounce zone is on BitTensor. Then we take the pivot from the top to the pivot in the bottom, and we're looking in between that 618 and that 786, which tells me that we're going to rally right now to $414 to $468 on Fibonacci. And remember, I gave you that green zone the last time we talked about this, so I suspect that we're going to see BitTensor move into that range very, very soon. Now, let's talk Dev. Now, for the last couple of days, Dev has been breaking down. It's been breaking down because the announcement that we were expecting to get, we did not get, which we wanted, but it did not happen. So what do we do and what do we ascertain from that? Well, it's having a tiny bit of a relief rally right now. That's not major, but it is a tiny bit of a relief rally. From, want to say about 20 cents, up 2%, 3%, something like that. I don't suspect this is going to maintain, but I'm encouraged because when I look at the data from a longer time frame, then my area of attraction is still this white line right here. This white line right here is at 44 cents, which is about a 2x away from where we currently are, clocking in at around 22 cents right here. So at 22 cents, that means that there should be a strong magnetic sort of pull heading up into this range. Now, let me tell you the fundamental problems. The fundamental problems are the team did not do the announcement that they put on their roadmap. That is a bearish indicator for anybody. However, when you go watch the video with Ray, you get really bullish because he's not talking about that much of a time frame. He's not looking at it to take forever. He's looking at a very quick fix to whatever's going on here that's taking a little bit longer. And I think it's the CASP and the VASP licensing. I think that they are still annoyed by market conditions. I won't lie about that. I do think that they don't like the market conditions the way that they've played out. So I do feel like, maybe there's some of that feeling right now that, and here's the thing. The U.S. government is moving quickly. European are starting to move very quickly. So, these licenses could be done at any moment, and we could see a massive breakout. So if you're not bullish on Dev, that's okay. But again, 22 cents, the pivot right there is 44 cents. Look, your bag's 2x on your bag. That's nothing. Okay. That's not gonna do you good. That's not gonna feed your soul, if you will. So that's not the move that you're looking for. You're looking for something much more aggressive and much bigger than what we're seeing right there. But we don't have it. So, you're going to have to, if you get that 2x, if you get that nice little surge up there, then that's going to be a great thing. I just don't know if it's in the cards right now. And with that, guys, I want to, by the way, Christmas tree, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Bleaves Nightly News. As you've seen here, we've moved around. We're doing this a little bit later at night. I want to attract a different audience. I hope that you guys are going to be part and parcel to this. I am broadcasting this at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I'm doing a repeat of it at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then going forward, this is going to be, and this is really to let you guys who watch me every day know that I'm moving to 6 p.m. I will be recording this in the mornings, in the daytime, and then I will be releasing it at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time so that you are at home and you can watch this with your family. You're not watching it at work. You're not watching it on your phone. You have a much better opportunity if you choose to consume this. And we're going to look at a new audience. This is going to be called Bleaves Nightly News. We're going to do this for a little while. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your your support so far. But as you guys know, change is good and change is inevitable, and I need to work on a show that is in a better time slot. I'm competing against some of the people who are already in that time slot. That's not really doing me any advantage. All it's doing is a disservice to me and to you, because I feel like I'm providing with great information and great content, but it's not picking up traction. So I'm going to move and I'm going to pivot, and we're going to do things a little bit differently. Consequently, this is going to be every single night, and you will know exactly what you need to know about the crypto market every single day. So with that, this is not financial advice. I'm always right. I want to thank you guys so much for everything that you've done for me so far, and I hope that you will continue. By the way, if we, as we do this and as we go forward, as this is pre-recorded, you can still give me super chats. And when you give me the super chats, we're going to talk about the cryptos that you want to talk about on the very next show. Okay? We'll talk to you again very, very soon.